Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are going on an absolute sensory journey. We're heading straight down the ancient Silk Road to experience this vibrant, centuries-old culinary fusion. And trust me, it is going to completely redefine what you think of when you hear the words traditional Asian cuisine. So grab a seat, get comfortable, because today we're exploring Xinjiang on a plate.
Okay, let's dive right into this. If I ask you to picture Chinese food, your mind probably jumps straight to dumplings, right? Or maybe delicate soy sauces, or steaming bamboo baskets full of dim sum. Well, I want you to just completely forget those preconceived notions for a minute. What we're about to explore is honestly a massive culinary blind spot for so many of us. We're talking about a region bordering Central Asia, where the food has been literally shaped by nomadic traders, incredibly harsh deserts, and just this absolute melting pot of cultures.
The visual contrast is just wild. On one hand, you've got Guangdong cuisine. It's famous for coastal seafood, delicate and subtle flavors, and a real mastery over steaming. But then look over at Xinjiang. This is a land defined by rich roasted meats. There's this heavy reliance on lamb and beef, super fragrant cumin, loads of dairy, and these incredibly dense breads baked in blazing hot ovens. It's just a completely different world of flavor, and it's deeply rooted in extreme geography and its history as the ultimate cultural crossroads.
So, to really understand this unique cuisine, we're going on a bit of a tasting menu travelogue. We'll start in Turpan, head to Kashgar, move on to Ili, then Karamai, and finally wrap up in Ürümqi. Stop 1. Turpan, the scorching oasis. Now, Turpan is quite literally known as one of the hottest places on Earth. Summer temperatures here, they can easily hit 50 degrees Celsius. That's over 122 degrees Fahrenheit. It's so hot, locals literally bake eggs in the hot sand. But the real magic happens in the vineyards. Turpan is super famous for its sweet grapes and honey melons. They actually harness that intense desert wind and heat to naturally dry grapes into world-famous raisins, right inside these mud brick drying houses. And to survive out there, they rely on the carrettes. It's this brilliant 2,000-year-old underground engineering system that channels melted snow from distant mountains using nothing but gravity. Mind-blowing, right? And that incredibly sweet local produce, it perfectly balances the savory richness of joie fan, or Uyghur pilaf. So what's really crucial here is how this dish marries the harshness of the desert with the absolute sweetness of the oasis. You've got these rich, fatty chunks of mutton and al dente rice, all soaking in a super comforting, oily broth. But it's the locally grown carrots, which get so sweet they almost taste candied, that cut right through that heavy lamb fat. It's absolutely a masterpiece of Central Asian-style comfort food.
Stop 2. Kashgar, the meat sanctuary.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer sensory overload when you leave the heat of Turpan and walk into the smoke-filled Han Bazaar in Kashgar Old Town. As one traveler perfectly put it, this is totally lamb heaven. It's a mutton sanctuary jackpot. Just imagine walking through streets totally filled with the aroma of golden, sizzling roast whole lamb, just shining with an oil gloss. You can practically hear the crunch of the crispy skin as the butcher carves it up. It is a primal, totally mesmerizing celebration of meat, fat, and fire that completely defines southern Xinjiang. And hey, if you want that roast lamb on the go, you reach for a samsa. These are gorgeous, flaky pastry pockets stuffed absolutely full of peppery, fatty lamb and onions. But the real magic is in how they're cooked. The baker literally reaches bare-handed into a scorching, deep clay oven, kind of like a tandoor, and slaps the raw pastry directly onto the hot, ash-covered walls. When they come out, the skin is as thin and crispy as paper, and the savory juices literally just explode when you take a bite. You gotta try it. Of course, you cannot have a meal here without the ultimate staple carbohydrate, Uyghur naan. And the dedication to this bread, it is staggering. Bakers are up at 5:30 in the morning kneading these massive mounds of dough with flour, oil, salt, and sugar. They stamp the center with these beautiful, intricate swirling patterns, coat the whole thing in sesame seeds, and then plunge it into that deep, coal-fired tandoor oven. Fresh out of the oven, tearing it apart in your hands, wow, there's just nothing quite like it. The Kashgar isn't just about heavy, roasted meats and savory pigeon soups. The locals have really perfected the art of balance. To counter all that heavy impact from the grill, they turn to the ultimate chill of the oasis. Right in the alleys of the old town, you'll find vendors with these flying ice shovels, just shaving down massive blocks of ice. They top the crushed ice with thick, rich local yogurt and a heavy drizzle of fragrant local honey. It's an incredibly refreshing, tangy, and sweet palate cleanser. It's exactly what you need.
Stop 3. Ili and the Silk Road Gelato.
So, pivoting away from the desert heat, we're heading north to the lush valleys of Ili. And here, for over 100 years, locals have meticulously perfected this totally unique handmade ice cream tradition, which was originally introduced from Central Asia. It's this incredible legacy of dairy craftsmanship that's been passed down through generations way before modern refrigeration was even a thing.
The process is so fascinating, mostly because it's entirely machine-free. They start by slowly boiling fresh, raw, local milk. Then they mix in eggs and sugar. But the crucial step is what happens next. They place this hot mixture into a container sitting inside a cold water or ice tank, and they stir it continuously by hand until it naturally cools and thickens. It is incredibly labor-intensive, but the result? A remarkably dense and smooth treat.
That dense, creamy texture has actually earned it a really fascinating comparison when Xinjiang ice cream meets Italian gelato. Because of that hand-churning method, very little air gets trapped in the mixture, making it incredibly rich and heavy, which is exactly like authentic European gelato. It's just this beautiful, sweet testament to the deep culinary cross-pollination that happened all along the Silk Road.
Stop 4. Karamai and the modern evolution.
Let's move to Karamai and see how this builds in a modern oil city, where culinary fusion is still actively evolving on the streets today. Here, there is a hyper-local obsession that you literally cannot find anywhere else. Not in Ürümqi, not in Kashgar. It's called fried yellow noodles. It's this vibrant, colorful stir-fry packing chewy yellow noodles together with meat, fresh vegetables, and, uniquely, tofu. Eaten outside in this noisy, lively atmosphere, the dish perfectly represents how local chefs take the foundational noodles of the region and continuously invent entirely new, exclusive flavor profiles.
Stop 5. Ürümqi, the Grand Bazaar finale. Finally, we arrive at the climax of our journey in the capital city's International Grand Bazaar. And the very first thing you notice in Ürümqi is the smoke. It rises from these massive grills where giant chunks of lamb are roasting. But here's the kicker. They aren't using metal skewers. They use fresh desert willow branches, which infuses the meat with this incredibly subtle, earthy aroma as it cooks over the charcoal. Heavily seasoned with salt and cumin, these colossal kebabs are the undeniable root and honestly the crown jewel of the modern Chinese street food scene. And this brilliantly illustrates the history of the Silk Road perfectly preserved. Take a look at kiagao, or Xinjiang nut cake. These are massive, super dense blocks. We're talking dense layers of walnuts and almonds, completely embedded with colorful dried fruits, and all bound tightly together with sweet syrup. They are incredibly heavy and just packed with calories. And why is that? Well, because centuries ago, these dense, sweet blocks served as the absolute original high-energy survival bars for ancient merchants, making that treacherous, months-long trek across the Silk Road. Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on. We've seen how geography, extreme weather, and ancient trade routes literally created a cuisine unlike anything else on Earth. So if the ancient Silk Road isn't just some dusty memory in a history book, but a living, breathing fusion of flavors you can still taste in a sizzling kebab or a scoop of handmade gelato today, what history is sitting on your plate right now? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and stay curious.